Welcome back to the Shawarma Joint. Hopefully, you watched part one of our Wandavision episode, and if you haven't, I suggest you go and watch that before continuing with part two, this video. I can't believe we've skipped over this, but the stork.
The stork, yes. Well, this will bridge into what we've been saying we would hit in this episode. There's so much
Mephisto.
Mephisto. So now you guys are going to hear what we mean when we say Mephisto.
So, Mephisto is very powerful. He has overpowered the Scarlet Witch before. And we believe, as I've seen on the internet, many other people believe that the stork is Mephisto or a version, some spawn, who knows, some version of Mephisto. Because
I believe that he was not Mephisto himself, but that he was with Mephisto's powers.
And because when Wanda tries to get rid of him because Geraldine is there, he just keeps moving on and walking towards Geraldine.
You see a little red dust or power of some sort around him. The same thing happens with the twins in episode 5 then, where Wanda actually says, "Why can't I control you?" Which is a very specific phrase for her to say.
Yeah.
That's because the twins are, from their soul is Mephisto. They're somehow powered by Mephisto. He helped create them in this reality.
Okay, so now moving on to episode 4, which wasn't a sitcom. It was more of just a regular, not regular, but your Marvel project that you would expect.
Oh, and hitting the difference between going into sitcom and MCU, we should say a beautiful detail on Marvel's behalf is the shaping of the screen.
Yes.
The sitcom is extra black on the edges, vertically.
It's a square, and then it.
Square. That makes much more sense to say. It's a square. And then the Marvel feel is much thinner. It's a longer horizontal strip. It's a rectangle. Jesus, Ella. Know your shapes. Anyways, yes, it's a rectangle, and it beautifully shifts in episode 4. We see the whole episode takes place in this rectangle MCU feel, and at the end it shifts back just for a second into a square and then goes back into the MCU feel even in the sitcom, because while this is taking place in the sitcom, it's not the sitcom feel. It's Wanda getting rid of Geraldine.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 4, we actually see the agent in the hazmat suit go up through the sewers, and we see the rope get cut, but we do not see what happens when Wanda rewinds. So we don't know what happened to this agent. We don't know what happened to the beekeeper, which was actually one of our major questions after watching the ending of episode 2, and it was not explained in episode 4 or 5. So hopefully at some point we will find out what happened to this beekeeper of the Hex.
Yes. All right. Now on to the moment that I'm sure you guys have been waiting for, that I have been waiting for. Episode 5.
Woo!
Best ending. Like, I literally screamed, but we'll come back to that because a lot happened before.
Yes, it did. One, we already talked about the amazing Norm scene, but one other major scene that happens here, throughout the whole episode, we see Vision questioning things and being like, "Huh, my wife might be a little bit scarier than I thought," and we see that come to a head. We see them almost battle.
Mm-hmm.
And Wanda's saying, "I'm doing all of this for you. You don't want to know what I'm handling. I'm kind of going insane right now." And she tries to roll the end credits. We know what she's going through, and at this point we really know her control, because we see Sword try to send in a drone. We see Hayward not recognizing Monica and her superiority in the situation and all that she knows. And we see him try to shoot Wanda in this reality. They figure out that they can get in here by using a drone from that time period that she doesn't need to change. But he kind of abused the opportunity and tried to shoot Wanda. Here we see the Scarlet Witch.
Here's where we really see how Wanda is handling this situation, and she steps out of Westview. So that changed a lot because we didn't really know if she knew for sure what was happening, but this really developed a lot. She stepped out, and when she steps out, everybody from Sword has their guns pointed at her, and she switches them onto Hayward.
The power.
And then I have something else to say about this that ties into the ending. There is a part when she's turning away from them. She does this little motion with her hand, which is a Magneto signature. And for those of you who have seen the X-Men movies or read a comic, Magneto is Wanda and Pietro's dad.
And a major villain of the X-Men
franchise. I would say anti-hero, but
you're right. I would say anti-hero. He is an interesting development in the X-Men franchise.
Mm-hmm. Somehow you still like him.
But right now, that's the beauty of the show. It's, I think, the strongest point right now is that Wanda is both this protagonist of the show that we're rooting for, and she's really turning into the villain antagonist character. We haven't even said yet. This is so beautifully based off of the House of M comics.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, basically, Wanda goes insane and kind of destroys reality. And there's been a lot of nods to it. The curtains in between Wanda and Vision when they're fighting in the air is shaped like an M. The whole thing is based off of that. There was actually an interview from the Age of Ultron press tour where Elizabeth Olsen said her dream Wanda project would be doing House of M, but she thought Marvel would never do it because it was the craziest project idea. And look at them now. The universe is expanding. And we see it expand in a pretty crazy way. Ready? Ella, I know you're excited.
I have been saying since the show was announced who I wanted to make an appearance. And no, it is not Pietro Maximoff. It is Peter Maximoff.
So, ding dong. Wanda, honey, who's that? Elizabeth Olsen's face tells it all. She did not know who was ringing that doorbell. And throughout the whole episode 5 and all of the episodes, we see it in even episode 1, when Agnes rings the doorbell, Wanda's summoning her subconsciously or consciously because she's in need at that moment. This moment, she tells Vision she did not do it, and I believe her. Technically, I have no reason to believe her because she's kind of in need of therapy right now.
Yeah, they can get Bucky and Sam couples
counseling.
They can't get Wanda therapy after her brother died, her boyfriend died, her parents died.
Well, those 2 5-year-olds doing their little staring contest kind of need some couples counseling at this moment. Well, we see Wanda get up and back to Mephisto. I believe, and I know Ella believes, that Mephisto or Agnes, or I know Grim Reaper's rumored to be the villain, though I think it's more pointing to Mephisto. Technically, they could both show up, and that would be a very Marvel thing to do. That doorbell ringing and Pietro showing up at the door was not Wanda. I believe that. That was Mephisto, Agnes, Grim Reaper. That was someone distracting her because Vision was getting through to her.
Yes. And I just have to say, I was very excited. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I was very excited because Peter Maximoff is my favorite X-Men. Sorry, Logan.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman has an amazing Logan, but
he is the one and only Logan. No one else can play.
One and only Logan, just like RDJ is the only Iron Man. But I know Ella prefers Peter over Pietro. She thinks he's a better example from the comics, and I agree. The characters are so brilliantly different that it doesn't take away from either character because they're so separated. So to have Peter come in acting like Peter, but now Pietro, is so exciting.
No Sokovian accent.
No, but he says he's Pietro. He's definitely Peter. If you listen to the audio on Disney Plus, the description actually says Wanda stares at the X-Men version of Quicksilver. So that is confirmation. I know people said he might be coming actually as Mephisto. We've kind of discarded that theory here.
And I got very mad when Darcy said it's a recast. It's not a recast, it is the multiverse.
Once again, Darcy just representing the fandom, saying, oh my god, did she recast him? But that is not true. Just because Darcy said it, that is not actual confirmation that happened. Don't think that's fact. No. Our greatest questions here are really, does he know? Like,
Yeah,
what is things happening? But we've kind of decided he does not.
I think that he doesn't know. Like, Monica came in and said her name was Geraldine and had no idea what was going on.
So she thought she was Geraldine. Then
Yeah.
people would think he's Pietro.
The credits are rolling. There's all this buildup, and they stop, and we get Pietro Maximoff. And I think this was a slight nod to the end credits scene that we haven't gotten. He was an end credits scene.
Love it.
So one of the big additions to the Vision residence in the 5th episode is Sparky. And Sparky also, in the same episode, just like Pietro, dies when he's introduced.
Just like Pietro. That was a mean thing to say, Ella. Us fans.
Just shows you that the one that we got is better.
I thought that was more of a reference to Vision. Maybe that's a good point, Ella. Maybe Sparky was a reference that Pietro is coming, just to get you thinking what other Marvel hero has died in an episode, in one film. I don't think that was the whole intent of Sparky, but maybe that was a Marvel thing just to get you, once again, like foreshadowing.
And I think Agnes, so Sparky died in Agnes's yard. I think Agnes could have one of two things. Agnes is either using Sparky's death as a way to turn the twins against Wanda or to get them to go along with her.
And see, I see it a little differently for a possible theory here. I thought maybe Agnes knows Wanda can't actually stop death. She's only, as Monica had said and we already covered, she's rewriting reality. So maybe Agnes kind of wanted to see or test if Wanda could actually bring something back to life or if she's just rewriting reality. Because once again, she doesn't bring Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver back. The multiverse just happened, so she's rewriting.
Mm-hmm. So,
we see Agnes knows what's happening, watches the twins age throughout the years. Also, we see Billy and Tommy in green and red, their comic book colors, which is just a little reference. Wiccan. Speed and Wiccan. Yes, we see their costume colors. And that's just another beautiful Marvel reference that carries through them as they age. And then we have this odd chat with Wanda where she tells them you can't reverse death. You can't run away from what's hard, which seems ironic, but really the reason she's telling them this is because she doesn't want them to age, which once again just shows she doesn't like how fast this is moving. Because if they keep aging, this sitcom's going to fall.
So
now on to...
So now that we've discussed all the episodes, we have like some extra little things to discuss.
Some theories we think will be upcoming.
So there have been rumors of, if you watch The Mandalorian, spoiler alert, Luke Skywalker made an appearance in the end. And so there's a lot of rumors that at the end, at some point in WandaVision, I'm guessing at the end, we will get a Luke Skywalker level appearance. And I know Avery and I both have different guesses as to who
we both see that the other is possible, but we're kind of both hoping for a different one.
We both have different options. We have a few that we agree on, but we have two. Avery has one and I have one that we're both really set on, I think. And so mine is Eric Lensher or Magneto, because Magneto.
I would love to see him, though.
What?
I would love to see that. I think that would still be an amazing, crazy cameo to bring in. That could fit.
And because Eric is Peter's dad, as they discuss in X-Men Days of Future Past and in X-Men Apocalypse and in X-Men Dark Phoenix. And if they're the Maximoff twins, he is also her dad. So,
ooh. Sorry. We know that the director of WandaVision and the director of Spider-Man 3 are working together to create a seamless transition between the movie and the show. So I would love for, as the multiverse is coming in, for Tobey Maguire. I believe that he would be beyond a Luke Skywalker level cameo, and I think that would be a crazy thing to see.
Yes, they both would.
Then we have some people we think are going to make an appearance in the show based on the way it's going. Not necessarily Luke Skywalker level because they're already MCU people, but Doctor Strange is likely going to come at some point. One is tampering with reality and the multiverse, and that's his arena. That would also perfectly set up Doctor
Doctor
Strange and the
Strange and
Multiverse of
Multiverse of
Madness.
Madness.
Exactly. Yes, you've read my mind, Ella. And also, based on Monica Rambeau being such a major character in the show, and a recent reference of her, which once again, Marvel does not refer to a character if it's not foreshadowing, there is a good chance Captain Marvel makes an appearance in WandaVision.
Which I would not be mad about at all.
Speaking of the scene where Monica is talking about Captain Marvel, we also see her say she knows an aerospace engineer who could help solve these problems. Obviously, if you're a Marvel fan, you probably spent the night Googling aerospace engineer Marvel.
And Avery and I both think we know who it might be, or who we hope it is.
This would be a huge thing to bring into the MCU.
And especially after Disney's Investors Day, when they announced a Fantastic Four movie. And if you know what I'm talking about now, you probably know who we're about to say.
Reed Richards. He is one of the greatest aerospace engineers in Marvel Comics and any Marvel universe, whoever is creating the movies. There have already been 2 Fantastic Four movies, which, if you listen to our first episode, you know how we feel about those. And we're ready for this remake. We believe that you see Monica texting someone. Once again, Marvel does not put in a frame if it is not absolutely necessary and hinting at something, but it was not referenced again. One other aerospace engineer in the MCU is Rhodey. So that would be a more seamless, easy thing to add in. We could definitely see Rhodey. But if Marvel is making the big jump like they usually do, we could have Fantastic Four come bridge in with the multiverse in WandaVision.
As well as X-Men, because Deadpool was just confirmed to be in the MCU, and he is in that universe.
Which is so exciting.
And then moving on, one major thing that we are yet to discuss, the commercials.
Yes, and this is probably what we're going to end off on for you guys, because it's going to cover all the episodes and give you a nice little overview of the great content we discussed with you today.
In the first episode, we get the Toastmate 2000, made by Stark Industries.
If they had named it Toastmate 3000, we would have all cried for weeks.
Yes. In the second episode, we get the Strucker Watch. In the third episode, we get the Hydra Soak. And in the fifth episode, we get the Lagos paper towels.
There's much to unpack here. First, commercial. There are a couple of things this toaster represents.
So there are 2 main theories that we have discussed. And the first one is that the beeping of the toaster, because the toaster is made by Stark Industries. And if you go back to Age of Ultron, Wanda and Pietro basically explain that in where they're from, a Stark Industries bomb killed their parents, and then another one landed in front of their faces and never went off. And that's why the beeping of the toaster went on for so long and finally popped a very long time after the second to last beep. This was also the first time in the show that we got to see color, and that was when the red light on the toaster was flashing.
The second major theory that we were discussing is the fact that the toaster itself represents Vision, that she has this old toaster that's burnt out. And then the second new toaster that's shiny and perfect and made by Stark, because Vision was made by Tony Stark in Age of Ultron. And that would be a crazy reference. We all kind of noted that the toaster looked a little bit like a face. So the fact that it both represents Vision's humanity and his face and his machinery. And we see Peter in the comics and Wanda make fun of Vision for being machine by calling him a toaster. In WandaVision, we get him calling Vision a popsicle, which is pretty close. But it's just another perfect little reference that we got. On to the second commercial.
The Strucker watch. And for, again, going back to Age of Ultron, as this movie has been very important to the show, Strucker was the Hydra agent that experimented on Wanda and Pietro and gave them their powers. They also say in Age of Ultron, or I guess in the Winter Soldier end credit scene, that Wanda and Pietro were the only people who survived his experiments, and they were volunteers. They weren't taken by Hydra.
And as an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, this is more setting up. Well, it does not directly connect to an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character. Von Strucker is an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know that's not who they were specifically mentioning, but it is setting up for if the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were to enter the MCU, it makes sense that they're laying some groundwork by overlapping a character, because once again, we know it's canon, but it's not really referenced. So the fact that they're referencing a character who does overlap would possibly set up. And then really hitting an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference 100%
Is Hydra Soak.
Is Hydra Soap. So for those of you who remember the incredible season 4 plotline in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they went into the framework, some virtual reality they were trapped in, where Hydra was leading. It was really Agents of Hydra for those couple of episodes. We see the beloved Agent Coulson as a school teacher, and he has no sort of power. And Daisy Quake and Gemma Simmons go into the framework to try to rescue everybody. And Coulson says he understands that there actually is Hydra, and he would be willing to help them in this reality that he doesn't understand yet. And he knew that Hydra was doing something, but don't worry, he's protecting himself. He knows that they're mind controlling people through the soap, the blue soap, he says. He says, don't worry, I make my own soap. And then in this trailer, in this little commercial we got, we see blue Hydra soap. The fact that they made it blue is 100% an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference, because the framework was a Hydra dominated reality that they were trapped in. So the fact that Wanda's subconscious created a commercial that's usually based off traumas of her life when she was tortured and experimented on by Hydra, that was a direct reference to a reality that Hydra was in charge of, that she was trapped in like a prison, is definitely a reference.
Yes. Okay, and then for episode 5, we have Lagos paper towels, which is obviously a reference to Captain America Civil War, where you see some of the Avengers, like Captain America, Black Widow, and Sam. You see
Some of our favorites.
Our favorites.
As you guys know from episode 1.
We see them fighting against Rumlow and Hydra and all them. And Rumlow is basically with an explosive. So Wanda, thinking fast, uses her powers to throw him into a building and causing the building to collapse. And then the slogan of the paper towels,
for when you make a mess, you didn't mean to.
It goes back to that mess.
Definitely.
Because that mess played a huge part in the creation of the Sokovia Accords.
And the fact that these are so directly referencing major traumas of Wanda's life could indicate two things. Either Wanda's subconscious is putting these directly here. I don't believe Wanda chose these because they're so horrifying. Or there's a chance that they could be from Agnes or Mephisto trying to trigger her, create an evil by forcing her into the greatest traumas.
Yes.
But we're definitely seeing the multiverse come into play. And we thought that Evan Peters coming in, that rumor, we didn't know exactly how. Ella had a lot of predictions that turned out to be pretty right. But we definitely could never have predicted that would be episode 5.
Yeah.
They definitely have more up their sleeve because, come on, it's Marvel.
Eric Lencher. Eric Lencher.
I am excited to see Fantastic Four enter, hopefully. We know that John Krasinski was in talks to play Mr. Fantastic. So if we get John Krasinski in the show, I think I will cry.
We already have John Krasinski.
We love Jimmy Woo, but he is not the same. For those of you who watch The Office, you'll know exactly what we're saying. For those of you who do not, please watch The Office. But with possibilities for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to enter, for Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock is already rumored to be in Spider-Man 3. So John Bernthal as the Punisher, Frank Castle, and Finn Jones could definitely be entering the MCU, given the circumstance that the X-Men are here.
Yes. Especially with the name Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
And Spider-Man 3 having previous 2 Spider-Man. We will get into all Spider-Man theories, including multiverse theories, in a Spider-Man episode. But first, a Fantastic Four episode, where we'll get more into John Krasinski possibilities that we kind of talked a little bit about here. So if you want more of that, tune back into the Shawarma Joint. When Wandavision is concluded and we hit episode 9, you will get a finale episode with the upcoming 4.
Yes.
So hopefully this took away your confusion and left you with new questions. So future things to look forward to. What happened to Hayward? What happened to Dottie? What happened to Agnes? Who is Ralph? Is he Mephisto? Where is the beekeeper? What happened to Herb? We have so much to look forward to. Look forward for you guys to our upcoming WandaVision episode, our upcoming Fantastic Four episode, and Multiverse episode.
My name's Ella.
And I'm Avery. Our ending quote for the day. In terms of Wanda, I can't control their fear. Only my own podcast.
That was a very good one.